Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tilted Lawyer podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, OJ Simpson is dead.
Whatever you might be going through and wherever you might be, this is Omar Serrato with the Tilted Lawyer podcast. I'm here to take your mind off of things. Yes, I'm an attorney. No, I'm not giving you legal advice. We're going to sit and talk like people, as these are the candid thoughts of one practicing attorney, and it's after hours. So have a seat. Feel free to have a drink and join me. Let's get started.
He died this morning at the age of 76 from complications with prostate cancer, of which he was diagnosed back in February. I have the article up right now. OJ Simpson, the decorated football superstar and Hollywood actor who was acquitted of charges that he killed his former wife and her friend, but later found liable in a separate civil trial, has died. He was 76. The family announced on Simpson's official X account that Simpson died Wednesday after battling prostate cancer. Simpson's attorney confirmed to TMZ that he died in Las Vegas. And if you saw the thumbnail for this video, that's one of the final images of OJ Simpson out and about in public of him in Las Vegas. He's looking very sickly, very frail. I've never seen him look like that. There was some reports back in February around the Super Bowl that he was sick and then he was in hospice care. Then he came out on his X account and he released a video that made it appear like he was about to go play a round of golf and that he was completely healthy, that he was not in hospice care, and denying completely that he had anything wrong with him. Well, it turns out it's not the case because as of today, April 11th, he's gone. And they say in the article that it was on April 10th, probably late last night, that he had passed away. The family asked during this time of transition that you please respect their wishes for privacy and grace, which is such a sweet sentiment given that his wife and her boyfriend did not get the same privileges to be alive in their 7th decade of life, to pass gently into the ether, surrounded by friends, family, and their children to say their final goodbyes. But here we are. Continuing with this article from ESPN, Simpson earned fame, fortune, and adulation through football and show business, but his legacy was forever changed by the June 1994 knife slayings of his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman in Los Angeles. On June 12th, the bodies of Brown, Simpson, and Goldman were found outside her condo in the Brentwood area of Los Angeles. Simpson was a person of interest in the murders, but rather than turn himself in 5 days later, he led police on a low-speed chase throughout Los Angeles as a passenger in a white Ford Bronco driven by former NFL player Al Cowlings. I remember that day like it was yesterday. It came on as breaking news. I remember I was with my dad. We were at my uncle's house, and it was just on the TV. Well, there goes OJ, and there was people like hanging out over the overpasses with signs alluding to free the juice and all of his fans. It was a crazy day. There was a lot going on. I think there was the NBA finals. I think the NHL finals were playing, and all of it was kind of trumped by these events. And so it was estimated that there was an audience of around 95 million that watched the drama unfold, with live coverage interrupting regular programming, including the NBA finals. He gained widespread popularity across society as the Heisman Trophy winning tailback for the University of Southern California in the late 60s, as a rental car ad pitchman rushing through airports in the late 70s, and as an anchor in movies such as the Naked Gun series in the 1980s. OJ Simpson has been in my life pretty much for as long as I could remember. I remember those TV commercials where he was leaping over benches and stuff for Hertz used car or rental car services or whatever it was. I remember the Naked Gun movies. I remember him when he was a football commentator on NBC or CBS or one of the two, but he was always being in his coats. I remember on TV and doing his analysis. That's how I knew of him. So when all of this happened in 1994, the public discourse of OJ Simpson was he was just one of the most popular athletes in the world at that point. And when all of this happened, everybody was just completely shocked. And if you remember back then, the LA riots and Rodney King and the acquittal of those officers that nearly beat him to death back in 1991 was still fresh in the minds of the general public. And so as this trial was unfolding, I cannot begin to tell you how many people I've spoken with in the legal profession that have been affected by this case in terms of how they try cases, in terms of how they handle evidence, the lessons that were learned. It was, I'll tell you what, the defense theory prior to the famous glove incident at trial was not going very well. Their whole theory of the case was this was a big setup and a conspiracy on the part of racist cops that wanted to convict OJ Simpson specifically, and they planted evidence to make it look like he was responsible for these crimes. And until the prosecution team, Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden, until they had the bright idea to have him try on the glove that was recovered from the scene for this demonstration to the jury that, oh, look, these are the gloves that belong to the murderer. They were worn by the hands of the murderer, and those hands belong to OJ Simpson. I gotta believe it was some kind of theatrics like that. What they didn't take into account was OJ Simpson was taking medication for, I think it was hypertension, that caused swelling in his hands when he would take it. And when he tried to put on the gloves, his hands were swollen and they didn't fit. Oh, never mind the fact that he was putting on the gloves himself and probably manipulating his hand in such a way to make it appear that the gloves would not fit. And that's what the jury got to find or see or view. Not the fact that, oh, these are the hands of the killer. No, it's like these hands of OJ Simpson do not fit this glove that belongs to the killer. So maybe there's reasonable doubt there. And there was just enough to gain an acquittal. I remember the public discourse back at the time. It was something to the effect of, well, if OJ's found not guilty, it's going to be for revenge for Rodney King. So many people were saying that. People are saying that in the media. Is the jury going to be affected by the events of the Rodney King trial? And are they going to be inclined to offer an acquittal in the hopes that it might somehow bring balance to social justice or whatever? Well, I don't know if that was the case with them or not. I just know, as all of you know, that back in 1995, when the verdict came down, I remember very vividly. I was a sophomore in high school, and I did not watch the verdict live on TV, but when the verdict came down, like the news spread to the entire school. And I remember just walking out, OJ's not guilty. And it became this whole thing, and everybody was rushing into classrooms to try to watch the live coverage on TV. It was a huge deal. They called it the trial of the century. There's been lots of documentaries made about it. They had a whole TV show with John Travolta made regarding it. The attorneys that were involved in that case are forever stamped by that case. Kardashian, Shapiro, Johnny Cochran, of course, Marcia Clark, Christopher Darden. I believe all of them had very robust careers that basically were boosted by their exposure in this case. I think Marcia Clark ended up writing a book. I think Christopher Darden is right now, I don't know if he's still, but I think he's right now a professor at a law school in Los Angeles. I think it's Southwestern maybe. Don't quote me on that. But it was, for all intents and purposes, it captured the public consciousness in ways that I don't think we're capable of doing anymore in this world of social media and lack of attention span and all of those things. We were captivated in 1994. It was on all of the news and was on all the TV channels. There wasn't no internet. There was no, it was like dial-up. It was a very, very low quality. It was not what it is now, but all the TV stations were covering this case. All of the talk shows were covering this case. Court TV, which was in existence at the time, became a huge thing as a result of this case because they were broadcasting it on TV. Judge Ito became a part of pop culture because of this case. It was huge. And afterwards, after the acquittal, of course, OJ just kind of meandered about I think he moved to Florida immediately afterwards. There was, of course, the civil suit where he was found liable for the death of his wife. And there was a money judgment involved, which the Goldmans, it was $33.5 million awarded to the family members of Brown and Goldman. They found him liable. Well, reading from the article, a criminal court found not guilty, but a separate civil trial jury found him liable in '97 for the deaths and ordered him to pay $33.5 million. They haven't recovered virtually any of that judgment, and I'm not sure if they ever will. I don't know what part of his estate they're going to be able to reach into, given that this is a pending judgment. That's for other folks to decide, other than myself. But the way that I've always understood it is that his funds were distributed amongst his retirement accounts in such a way that it was untouchable from civil judgments, essentially. I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend to know because I don't do this area of law. I don't know to what extent his estate is indefinitely protected from that $33.5 million lawsuit. But I guess we're going to find out. My guess is we're going to have a very lengthy battle, probably in probate courts, to determine how they're going to divide up the Simpson estate, if it's worth anything at all. Who knows? I mean, the guy's been struggling for money, from what I've heard. He wrote this book, If I Did It, because he was trying to earn an income somehow. I remember that he was in Vegas doing these autograph sessions. He went back to jail, coincidentally, I don't remember what it was, like 2013, 2014, 15, because he tried to break into somebody's house to steal back memorabilia. And that's the thing he went to prison for. He was released later. But he's just been kind of floating around and making these weird quotes. He went on this podcast not too long ago where he was opining that you should never confess. If you've done something wrong, don't ever confess. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. And then the people that run the podcast are like, is this guy serious? Like OJ Simpson, you cannot say that kind of stuff. And it was like this bizarre exchange that they had. And then, of course, more recently, he tried to make it appear as if he was healthy. And he was very sickly, obviously, and he's gone. Yeah, imprisoned at age 61, he served 9 years in a remote northern Nevada prison, including a stint as a gym janitor. He was not contrite when he was released on parole in October of 2017. The parole board heard him insist yet again that he was only trying to retrieve sports memorabilia and family heirlooms stolen from him after his criminal trial in Los Angeles. But they paroled him anyway, I guess. This article goes on to state, public fascination with Simpson never faded. Many debated if he had been published in Las Vegas for his acquittal in Los Angeles. In 2016, he was the subject of both an FX miniseries and 5-part ESPN documentary. Simpson says, I don't think most of America believes I did it. I beg to differ with that. I don't think that I've ever met anybody that genuinely believes that he was not guilty. It's one of the most obvious cases you're going to find in terms of guilt or innocence. He goes on to say, I've gotten thousands of letters and telegrams from people supporting me, which, well, it's probably true. 12 years later, following an outpouring of public outrage, Rupert Murdoch canceled a planned book by the News Corp-owned HarperCollins, in which Simpson offered his hypothetical account of the killings. It was to be titled, If I Did It. Goldman's family, still doggedly pursuing the multi-million-dollar wrongful death judgment, won control of the manuscript. They retitled the book, If I Did It, Confessions of the Killer. And I think that I remember them shrinking the if portion to like minuscule in the font on the title to make it look like I Did It, Confessions of the Killer. And then Simpson says, it's all blood money. And unfortunately, I had to join the Jackals, Simpson told the AP at the time. He collected $880,000 in advance money for the book, paid through a third party. He says, it helped me get out of debt and secure my homestead. Less than 2 months after losing the rights to the book, Simpson was arrested in Las Vegas. Oh, so David Cook, an attorney who has been seeking since 2008 to collect the civil judgment in the Ron Goldman case, said that he spoke with Fred Goldman, father of Ron, on Thursday about Simpson's death. Cook declined to comment what Fred Goldman said or where he was. And then Cook says he died without penance, We don't know what he has, where it is, or who is in control. We will pick up where we are and keep going with it, which is kind of par for the course. That's been kind of the famous, where is OJ's money? Well, it's good luck finding it. It's been distributed pretty strategically so that nobody's going to get their hands on it. The problem now is going to be if he has anything, if his estate is worth anything, if he wanted to give it to his children, can he? The answer is no. Any money that they recover, I imagine, is very rapidly going to be turned over to the civil judgment. I'm pretty sure. And I don't know the characterization or the nature of whatever they're going to recover, and I don't know if there's anything at all. So I guess we're going to have to wait to find out about where that's going to be. At any rate, OJ Simpson is dead, and do with that what you will. Who was he to me? He was a guy. I remember two versions of OJ. I remember the OJ that I grew up with, which is the football hero, and I remember the other part, and that's been 30 years of my experience with him since about 95, 29 years now. So I don't really have an opinion of OJ other than I think he killed her. I think he killed him. And whatever discomfort he experienced in life was well-deserved as a result of what he did. And I think that it's up to the public to judge him. And it looks like, given from what I've read so far, that they are judging him appropriately. And I'll leave that for other folks to worry about. As for all of us, I think it's time for us to move on. So we're getting ready to record in about 2 hours our long-form podcast that's going to be published on Saturday at noon, as usual. It's going to be regarding Chad Daybell. I've already covered the Daybell case in depth for a couple of episodes. I want to say 6 or 7 months back. Maybe I'll link down to that video below. But that was more from the perspective of Lori Vallow. This time, we're covering it from the perspective of Chad. And we have a lot to talk about with that because I think that he is going to throw her all the way under the bus. Interestingly, in that case, he tried to have his, well, not him, but his attorney tried to get off of the case, basically arguing that he didn't have enough experience to try a death penalty case and he wanted off. And then the judge was like, no, we're not doing that. You're going to try the case. I don't want any more unnecessary delay. You're just going to have to do your best, is basically what he told him. If any of you have been wondering where I've been for the last week or so, I have been engaged in trial pretty much the entire time, which leaves very little time, if any, for anything else. And so as much as I've wanted to put out additional content, there's all kinds of stuff that's going on right now that I've been wanting to cover. I just have not had the time to sit down and hit record and put something together. And I don't want to half-ass it either. And so I wanted to put out this video because I wanted to memorialize the monumental event that I feel it is, that OJ's passing is. For whatever you think of him, he has been a major part of all of our lives for almost 30 years now from the trials. Some of you much later than that, if you followed him during his NFL career, during his TV career, his movie career, and all of that. And so it's important to document, and now we have. And so if any of you have any show ideas or requests, or if you want to submit to me one of your hypotheticals, it could be from your life, it could be for somebody else's life, it doesn't matter. If it's interesting, myself and Ileana will analyze it on the show in depth, as we've been doing regularly now on our Family Law After Dark segment. Until then, I will see you guys very soon. I'm getting ready to record here in about a couple hours, the long form podcast, and we will see you guys later. Bye-bye.